I don't know. I honestly, I have no idea what we're talking about. So I'm ready. I'm ready to do this.
All right. So, Gold Open. What do we got for Gold Open?
I'm almost done with season 4 of Cobra Kai. And I really didn't think I'd like that show. I was fully prepared to hate it. The only reason I watched it was because Amanda said, I really loved Karate Kid, and so we should watch this. And I said, okay, but I don't know. It looks kind of hokey. I don't think I'm going to like it. And I'm in. Here we are.
Yep. I've seen season 1 and like half of 2.
4 seasons later.
Oof. I told you earlier, only 2 episodes in at this point. Yellow Jacket on Showtime.
Yeah.
Oof, it's pretty good.
Yeah. And then
I think
and then Witcher. You still need Witcher in your life.
Yeah, I was sitting downstairs with my new puppy dog. Not my new puppy dog, it's our girl dog. And we were all snuggled up watching Yellow Jacket. And I went upstairs and I told Tiffany, I was like, oh yeah, last night we watched 2 episodes of Witcher. And she was not happy. And I was like, JK. JK.
Boba Fett.
Ooh, that's first episode of Boba Fett.
There's that.
Kiddo loved it. Wife loved it. It was kind of cool because Tiffany never is like, oh my God, like I want to watch another episode. But there was only 1 episode of that one. And so like the next day she's like, is there another episode out yet?
I was
no,
super mad about that. I was mad.
I did like that they kind of like answered all the questions.
And I was like, okay, if you only want to give me 1 episode, fine. But could it be longer? It wasn't even 45 minutes,
I think there should have been 2.
Shenanigans.
It was probably like just right at 30.
I was mad.
But I did like that they answered all the questions that people have had for like 30 years, 20 years.
Well, I think that, I don't think it really answered questions, but it definitely
well, I mean, and how he got out and stuff like that.
It gave some cool imagery. Apparently there's the image of when he's in the Sarlacc. Apparently there was a painting that someone did that was very similar to that. And I don't know if they just pulled from that, from that imagery, but it looked rad. Looks super rad.
I saw somebody say that they just finished Boba Fett and they just lathered themselves with a gallon of coconut oil because he was just dry as a bone.
That's what I said, because he's going through there, and I was like, he's not wearing any sunscreen. Whew. And there's 2 suns.
Yeah. Yes. You think sunburns are bad. Like, try being sunburnt and not being anywhere near shade for like months at a time.
Like SPF 9000.
Yeah. Oof.
It's rough.
It is. All right. Ready to start our show?
Hang on. I got to cover myself with coconut oil.
And I'm going to drink like 6 gallons of water. So we're going to have like 6 pee breaks.
Because this show is the twin sons of our life. What's up, everybody? I'm Richard.
And I'm Shawn.
And we are speaking the language of bromance. And Shawn, I've decided to start this episode with a song.
You know, we talked years ago.
Done that for a minute.
Yeah, we talked years ago when we first started. It's like, we're going to do a musical episode. And we have yet to do one.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right. We said that, and it hasn't happened.
I feel like we could probably do like 2 or 3 bits and get something out.
I write songs all the time. I write songs about how terrible my dog is because he does bad shit all the time.
Like
I
what?
write about how terrible, he tears shit out of the trash.
Do you do songs about kids sneaking in the background while we're trying to do a podcast?
I do songs about how terrible my kids are.
Yeah.
Like if I'm trying to do a show and they sneak around me.
Kids are always killing daddy's art.
I'm trying to do a show and my kids are shit.
It's funny when they're in the room.
It is funny when they're in the room because then they give you that look like, how dare? And then they realize it's going, father? Yeah. And then they realize it's going on the internet, so they're like, oh shit, I can't exacerbate this.
Yep. So it's like, then I'm gonna send it to all your friends, and like, none of my friends will listen to your stupid podcast, Dad.
But if I made it into a TikTok, they'd watch it.
Zoomers are so dumb.
Sheesh.
Richard, I want to ask you, how do you feel about Neighbors?
When I was a kid, I feel like I knew all of my neighbors. Not only did I know the neighbors next door on both sides, but I knew the neighbors across the street. I knew neighbors down the street. We used to have block parties. Did you ever go to a block party, Shawn?
I've heard of them. I've never been to one.
Yeah, actually went to a block party where they would block off both sides of the street, and then everybody just like came out and hung out.
Yeah, you don't do that anymore. I've only actually, like, neighbor-wise, when I was living in my first house by myself, the neighbors across the street were having a party. I totally blew my chance with a girl, Richard, because I was just coming from a date. And so I was like, well, I mean, I did come from a date, so, like, I can't, like, hit on a girl.
Oh, heaven forbid. Was it the first date?
Yeah, it was, too. It was the first date.
It was the first date? And you're like, oh, no, I better not.
Yeah, but it was Tiffany, so I'm sure it wasn't Tiffany. But the team so I was over there, and they were playing Flippy Cup, and the team I was on, there's a really cute girl, and Richard, their team name was something on my face. Team something on my face.
Team something on my face.
Yeah.
Coconut
and I was like,
lotion.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
I think I did say, like, is there initiation for this?
Yeah.
Because there's one way I'll play, one way I won't.
Gold, Shawn. That's how you get the girls.
Well, this was like mid-2000s, so that's just how people talked.
I mean, you can't go like back in my day. Like, it wasn't that long ago, Shawn.
Well, and to be fair, she was the one that came up with the team name. But no, neighbors today.
So, but I was just, compare that to today. If you asked me to name people that live on my street, I couldn't do it. I couldn't tell you the names of anyone that lived on my street. I can't tell you what my next door neighbor's first names or last names are. I've spoken to, the one neighbor I have kind of kept some casual conversation with, and they have a garden, and they're like, they just grew a bunch of jalapenos, and like, oh, do you want some jalapenos? Because we've got way too many. And so I grabbed some jalapenos from them. And I think my kids have gone over and like watched their dogs once or twice when they went out of town. Code? No, that's code for what?
It's swinger code. It's like, hey, you want some of my jalapenos?
No,
do you like it hot? Do you know what is code for swingers, Richard? You gotta know.
Would you like to come over and rail my wife?
No, it's pineapples.
Oh.
Did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. It is.
So that's the one neighbor. The neighbor on the other side of me, never, nope, don't know him.
Yeah,
don't know them
it's
at
funny
all.
Because in my other two houses, I guess we became friends with one of our neighbors in our old house. But whenever their new people moved in, we didn't really talk with them too much and didn't really know anybody in my old house. I actually know the names of the neighbors in the place I live now, and there's only 4 of them that live not barely walking distance from me. So I feel
why is that? Why, like I said, when I was a kid, I knew everybody. Like, I knew people on my block.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just like in like the suburban feel has kind of gone away, and it's more of like we all seclude into our homes.
Yeah.
And that's not just a COVID thing. I think that's been like the last 5 years.
I mean, yeah, the last couple years probably haven't helped, but I mean, even before that.
And there's not really like a rely on your neighbor feel anymore. Like where we are now, we're kind of away from stuff. And so like if somebody needs something, like it's a legitimate, like, oh, the closest person's like a neighbor. Whereas like where we used to live, it's like, oh, I need help. Well, I'm going to call somebody. They're going to come here and help.
Yeah.
So it could be part of that. We're not as reliant on neighbors or as actually helpful to neighbors as we used to be.
Yes. Yeah, I completely agree. The concept of going to your neighbor's house to borrow, say, a cup of sugar or something like that it seems strange.
Yeah, in the day and age of 24-hour grocery stores.
Yeah.
So basically the working on the weekends has ruined neighborly interactions.
The era of the neighborhood is dead. And you killed it, Shawn.
That's fine, because sometimes I don't want to hang out with the neighbors.
That's true.
Because that's the bad
talking
thing.
about pineapples. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's like, why you got your pineapple picture upside down?
Is that a thing? Do they have pictures that they turn upside
Richard,
down?
If you get invited to somebody's home and like there's pineapples on the wall, like that's probably a sign that they're swingers. If it's upside down, it's like they're basically like checking you, like, hey, what's up? In our house, I
can't tell if you're bullshitting me or not.
No, I'm dead serious. So I always joke with Tiffany because on our house, the both signs, like the address sign, have pineapples on it. And so I always joke that like the people that lived here before us were like wild swingers and they threw swingers parties.
I think I figured out your next anniversary gift.
A pineapple. But
it's gonna be as big like pineapple artwork. And I'll be like, you should hang it in the front room.
What's funny is she talked to the lady that lived here, and she's like, she was always asking me a lot about pineapples. And she had a pineapple on her car. I was like, yeah, starting to line up, isn't it?
And her husband was banging. Wait, what?
What? He showed me everything. Did you know there's a secret sex dungeon? No, I didn't.
The real estate agent failed to point that out.
But no, Richard, I bring up neighbors because I have a story about a couple of guys back a long time. Like you said, the era of neighbors is dead.
Yes.
I think it probably died long ago.
Oh, no.
So this story comes from Mental Floss. And
this isn't the Civil War, is it?
No.
Okay.
Oh,
neighbor
I don't know.
Against neighbor.
So Nicholas Young considered himself a lucky man, Richard. He was a German who immigrated to the United States in 1848 and had worked hard.
This was right before the Civil War.
It was. He had worked hard to carve out a living for himself and eventually prosper as the owner of a mortuary in San Francisco. So, that's an interesting sidebar. Thinking of the Civil War and stuff, I really don't think of California being established at that point. But it would have been.
I didn't think it. Yeah, I guess it would have been. Yeah, when you say the Civil War, you have your northern states and your southern states, but in your head, you're like, well, what happened, everything, west of Texas? Were they just like, hey,
figure your shit out.
Get your shit together. Look here, Dixie Whistlers. Knock it off.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, because 49 was when the 49ers happened, so that's when it really kind of got big. But yeah, that's weird. That's interesting. I've never really thought about that. Well, the thing is probably by the time they found out about the war happening, it was already over because it took the news that long to get there.
Like, holy shit, there's the Civil War. We should go fight. The California 82nd is here. Guys, we signed the Treaty of Appomattox 8 months ago. What?
Who won? Which side are you on?
The what? You heard me. Okay, so you're with the North. Yeah, the North. They won, right? Yeah. Woo. Okay.
Oof. Close one.
Proud to be a Yankee. I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy.
The business allowed him and his wife, Rosina, to purchase a modest lot on the top of a California street hill where they built a quaint cottage-style home, Richard. Every day they got the California sunlight and fresh air coming through their windows.
Can you imagine people that, let's say your great-great-great-grandfather just happened. He goes out. So your great-great-great-grandfather goes out west, and he's like, I'm going to go pan for gold. And he gets himself a piece of land and no gold. Ends up fucking, you know, like he's managed to like get by, but his dreams of becoming like, you know, some sort of, you know, huge, like big rich guy have completely fallen by the wayside. Fast forward like 3 generations and you sell that plot of land that he's on for like 85 gajillion grazillion dollars.
Realistically, what happened is like at some point they'd be like, listen, the family's broke. We got to sell this. We got to sell this valley. There's nothing here in Napa. And they sell it for $5. That's what would happen, Richard.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, it always makes me nervous to think about. I mean, my family lineage, I think, was pretty much like dirt poor forever. Like legit,
yeah, me
like,
too.
So I don't know if there was ever a time where the family like had like this thing that's like, oh my God, if we still had that, we'd be billionaires.
Yeah, and then there was my uncle, Richard Rockefeller. It seemed like he had money, but I wasn't so sure. He always say he was poor, so I believed him.
Yeah. The name sounds familiar.
Sent me shitty Christmas gifts too.
Asshole.
Socks again.
Well, I mean, it's what's this piece of paper? Apple stock. I don't even like fruit.
I hate fruit. Pineapples, that's where it's
at. But Young had no reason to believe that anything could interrupt his life, or that any one person could somehow deprive him of the beautiful days he had worked so hard to enjoy. But Young also hadn't accounted for, Richard, do you know who?
Abraham Lincoln.
No, close. Charles Crocker.
Oh.
He
like
was
the guy that invented the crock pot?
Yeah. He's like, you know what? Salting this food takes too long. I want to just put it in a pot.
Yeah.
And wait.
Put it over the fire.
And have some lukewarm, nasty meal.
He's like, listen, put everything in a pot and then you sit it on top of your fire. It's called set it and forget it.
Charles Crocker, Richard, was a very rich because he came up with the crock pot idea. But he was a very petty man because he's like, my time's valuable. I can't be sitting around for 20 minutes waiting for food to be done.
Yeah. And he was crazy. And that's where the expression, you're crazy as a crock pot, that's where that expression came from.
Yeah, he also was a little bit of a fibber, so that's when people say, that's a load of crock.
Yep.
But Richard, he would eventually become the neighbor of Young and the bane of his existence. So this is where it comes from, Richard. With enough lumber to build a 40-foot tall, blighting fence around much of Young's property, Crocker and his spite fence became a legendary revenge tale, a tourist attraction, and a lesson in the danger of escalating tempers.
God, that's, you know what, I mean, like, think about it. Like, it's just basically like people gawking, like, you see how much that dude hates that other dude? Oh my.
Yeah. It's like the guy that like moved in next to his ex-wife and like made like a penis tree or something. It's like, I hate you this much that I'm going to spend so much money. When you look out your window, you see a big dick.
Yeah. It's like, it's the definition of petty. It's how petty.
Like, what's the most petty thing you've ever done?
I mean, I honestly don't know. However, I'm sure that I have done plenty of petty things in my life.
Yeah, I think
like nothing comes to mind, but I'm sure if you asked like anybody, but primarily my wife, I'm sure she could probably tell you.
Yeah, what's it called where you're like hiding like anger? Passive aggressive. I'm more passive aggressive.
That is me to a T.
Yeah. Like just before we did this, like Tiffany was having trouble with her watch, and I was like, "Oh, it's not like I'm not doing a podcast soon."
That is totally something I would say.
Yep. When I looked at the door, she built a 40-foot fence.
What's this? This is my spite fence.
But so they kind of bury the lead. So basically what Crocker did here is he built a fence around Young's beautiful property so they couldn't see anything. So they're going to get into the tale. So it's 6 foot tall and 300 pounds, which back in this day, like 6 foot tall is not like, I kind of hate that they put 6 foot tall because that's actually not that tall, right?
Well, yeah, but back in the day, wasn't everybody shorter?
Well, I mean, I think like 5'6", 5'7", so it was taller.
So like 6 feet tall, like honestly, like I think that if Shaq lived in the time of like 1850s, they would probably write stories about him like he was Paul fucking Bunyan.
Yeah, probably. Because Abe Lincoln was like 6'6", wasn't he? 6'7".
Something like that. And they had the hat, and everybody was like, "Oh, Jesus Christ!"
Yeah. Then he grew a beard, and like, "Oh my God, it's a wizard!
He's gonna fucking sail across the ocean to eat Tokyo." And he did.
But he was 300 pounds too, Richard, which a 6 foot tall, 300-pound dude is not a lean looking man.
Not at all. Not at all. And so I'm saying, like, they built a 6 foot high fence. They're probably like, Jesus Christ, it's like Hadrian's Wall fucking in the middle in our town of San Francisco.
If I yell over it, they might hear me. Hello.
What?
So Charles Crocker cut an imposing figure. I kind of imagine him looking like Kingpin, like a smaller version of Kingpin.
Ooh, yeah. I like that image. Can he wear the white suit? White suit with a floral Hawaiian shirt. That's what that's how I've just decided to picture him in my mind.
Bald, fat Hawaiian shirt wearing.
Yes.
1850s dude. So he had filled his bank account by being one of the big four barons behind the building of the Central Pacific Railroad. So he's a railroad baron, right?
Oh shit. Like they had like crazy money. They had like stupid money.
Well, they would have been like the Tesla / motor vehicle / Uber.
I mean, basically, he would have been if he was a railroad baron, like he was the I don't know. I don't want to say Bezos, but like
oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, he'd been like probably top 10 richest people in the world.
Yes.
At this point in time. By the 1870s, he could afford whatever he desired.
Yep.
So put a pin in that, Richard. So I've been recently listening to, or I just finished Will Smith's book that he wrote. And it's one of those things like you hear him talk about like all the things that he can afford now.
Yeah.
But I always wonder like this, like anything he desires. Like I know there's the joke like it's like, oh, money can't buy happiness, but it's like, but have you ever seen somebody sat on a jet ski? Like you don't. But I wonder if like there's like a medium. Like if you're at a point where it's like, I'm going to blow a shit ton of money because I'm so petty, I'm going to build this fence around this guy's house. Like, is there a point where you have too much money?
Yes, there is. I'll answer that question. Yes, there is a point where you have too much money.
And not that you become a bad person, but like just internally, like you lose sight of being what a human feels like. Like Prince. Like Prince is a great example. It's like, I want a camel. It's like, well, it's 2:30 in the morning, but I want a camel.
Yes, you lose perspective of life. Yes, I completely agree. Yeah. I mean, and the thing is like I don't begrudge someone for being a rich person. However, I will begrudge you if you have more money than you're able to spend in, 15 lifetimes.
Yeah.
I begrudge you a lot. Because at that point, like, what are you doing? You're trying to what? Win? You won the game. Whatever the game is.
A lot of those people too, like they work so much too that I wonder if, like, how much do they actually enjoy it? And then there's a reverse of it. How much people like have it over enjoy? I mean,
let's put work in quotes, but yeah, I get what you're saying. Like you're worried. Like people that have like insane amounts of wealth are extremely worried about losing their insane amounts of wealth.
Well, yeah, and I think that just goes, and maybe this is what I'm tying into this a little too with the Will Smith book is like the fame idea. Because like, do you get to a point where you're too famous and like your life becomes almost like a parody of itself?
I mean,
like you're not living your life, you're just kind of going through it.
I mean, maybe, I don't know. What they say, the most recognized figure in the world at one point was Charlie Chaplin. Like he was considered the first international movie star. Like he was known throughout the world, not just in the U.S. So, I mean, what kind of life did Charlie Chaplin lead? I have no idea. I've never read a book on Charlie Chaplin.
When I would think being Charlie Chaplin famous would be different compared to like Will Smith famous today. Like Will Smith can't go anywhere without getting like
Correct.
He was, in the book, he was talking about how like he traveled. And it sounds like you're like, oh my God, dude, like be a little humble, but it's just the reality of it. He's like, I travel with no less than 10 people, which means 11 rooms, which for security really just means I take the best floor at a hotel and completely shut it off.
Yeah.
And he talked about how he went to this island with a guy, and the guy's like, oh, like we're really cool here. Like you don't have to worry about it. The instant he stepped off the plane, like he was surrounded by people like, oh my God, it's fucking the dude from Independence Day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which to me at this point in my life too, it's like, what do you want to do when you see him, right? Like, I don't want an autograph. I really don't want a picture with him. I'm a big Will Smith fan too.
I mean, see, I don't know. Like, I've never really been one when it comes to somebody, quote unquote, of a celebrity status. Like, I've never wanted to get pictures or autographs. Like, honestly, if it's somebody that I like, if it's a like I said, a celebrity that I'm interested in, I would feel much better if I like got to like chit chat with them for a few minutes.
Yeah.
Well, like that would be my thing. I don't need a picture.
Yeah, like Kevin Smith's the only one that I would say I've kind of like fanned out on. And we both kind of did when we saw him at that podcast conference, but that was more of a conversation. That was more intimate.
Yeah. We got to like stop and like chit chat for a couple minutes, which was fantastic. And I think he's the one that was like, oh, we should take a picture. Because in my head, I wasn't even thinking like, oh, let's stop and take a picture. Because I feel like that I don't need the picture to know that happened.
Yeah. Well, like I think it's to me like if I'm at a restaurant and I see Will Smith. Now, that being said, I don't know if there's some subconscious like thing that would take over me and I would go over there like not intentionally, like it's an out of body experience. But like if I'm at a restaurant and I see like, holy shit, that's Will Smith right across from me, I wouldn't say anything. I wouldn't go over to him because like it's a restaurant. But even if I saw him in the airport, like it'd probably still be the same thing. I'm like, he's busy. Like he doesn't need somebody else coming up and be like, oh my God, do you know you're Will Smith? Like, no, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of thinking about like this guy who can get anything he wants, and then also kind of like just like the famous thing is like because we talk about like this show and stuff. Like, oh my God, wouldn't it be great if it was like like more notable? But like, I feel like we both want to get to like a certain level, but we don't want to get to like Joe Rogan / who's.
I don't want to be Joe Rogan crazy.
What's the other? I'm trying to think. What's the other big? That's the only big podcast I think that makes a ton. Well, like Call Me Daddy, famous, right? Which I don't think Joe Rogan's probably more famous than her, or at least noticeable.
I have no idea who that is. So
yeah, I think everybody knows who Joe Rogan is, but she's another Spotify that they paid for her to do her show there.
Oh, okay. Had no idea.
Yeah, I've listened to a couple, but there's only so many podcasts you can listen to about women being like, oh, and then I blew 6 guys and a woman that night. And you're like,
oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. Let's see. So he could afford anything he desired, and what he wanted was to loom over San Francisco like a gargoyle. So Crocker and his wealthy partners.
That's a bad choice of words.
Yeah, I feel like
how I want to loom over the city like a terrifying monster.
Well, they didn't have Batman back then.
It's an odd phrase to, well, I know, but like I want to watch over this city like a majestic guardian.
Well, and this could be somebody
you could have said that. Instead, he goes with looming gargoyle. It's just a bad choice of words.
Yeah. Well, and this article is written like 100 years after the fact. So like this could just be like, I bet he's just a rich asshole. It's kind of like the Ty Cobb thing, Richard. If you ask anybody, they'll be like, Ty Cobb was a racist. He was a horrible person. He killed a guy. All not true. All from a movie.
Really?
Yeah. He actually was like a halfway decent guy. And actually, I think he was very like
yeah. He was a baseball player, right?
Yeah, he's a baseball player. But everybody's like, oh my God, he killed somebody. He's a horrible person. It's like, so now it's just funny.
He's a racist baseball player.
That's what they said. It's not true.
Okay. But he did kill a guy.
He didn't kill a guy.
Oh.
He was actually
now I don't know what to believe. Did I kill a guy?
Maybe. Are you a racist baseball player? I can't even throw a ball. That's not what I asked. So Crocker and his wealthy partners began scouting California Street Hill for its scenic views and proximity to the city's financial district. One of his Big Four associates, Leland Stanford, former governor of California and future founder of what university do you think he founded, Richard?
UCLA.
Stanford.
Oh.
Suggested that the area would make for a beautiful residential plot if a cable car could bring residents up and down the hill. So Stanford arranged to have one installed, and soon a group of wealthy men, including Crocker, were buying up all the homes on their chosen blocks.
Oh, I see.
So I wonder. So this.
Oh my God!
Yeah.
Is this like the plot for Goonies Civil War?
Oh, this is
style?
the plot of our Goonies sequel. Yeah.
It's Goonies, but set in the Civil War.
Yeah.
Or Superman, because it's all a land grab.
Yeah. Well, and at this point in time, too, like there was a lot more land to get. Like now, like this is near impossible because that land's probably worth way too much money.
Yeah.
Oh, side note on Will Smith. I don't know if you know this. He always wanted to have a property with a name because he loved Dallas. So he bought a $42 million plot of land, I think in California, that he named Her Lake.
Her Lake?
Yeah, because it's for Jaden, his wife. Her Lake.
Oh, Her Lake.
Yeah.
Okay.
She wasn't happy about it, and it said it was going to take like 50 people to run it because it was so much land.
You know who the richest landowner in California history is?
Mm-mm.
Bob Hope.
Really?
Yeah. Why do you think that the airport in Burbank is called Bob Hope International Airport? Because he owned all of that land.
I think the guy who owns all the Walmart land is like the biggest landowner right now.
Okay.
I don't remember what his last name is. He owns like the Rams and stuff. Let's see. So the group of wealthy men, including Crocker, were buying up all the homes on their chosen block. By the time Crocker was finished, he had erected a 12,000 square foot mansion.
Yeah.
That's big back then.
My boy's living large.
Yeah. You know, that's the other thing, too. Like,
crock pot in every room.
Every bathroom comes with a crock pot. Yeah. That's the other thing, too. Like, when you see, like, these famous people
I've
like
got
these
44 roasts going right now.
These, like, 40,000 square foot homes, you know, like 40 rooms, 900 bathrooms. Like, you got to clean that. I mean, you don't clean it, but somebody's got to clean all that.
Yeah, but he doesn't care. Because it's not him.
Well, and he's providing a job for somebody. With its new wealthy inhabitants, California Street Hill was renamed Knob Hill.
Because he's a knob.
Yeah, that's where it came from.
I knew it. Fuck that guy. Fuck that guy and his Instapots.
Oh, I wonder if... Oh, I'm reading ahead. I bet Young was like, fuck you, I ain't selling my house. That's probably where it all came from.
Yep, that's probably why he built this fucking fence. Because he's probably like, fuck you, I ain't selling shit. And so then he just was like, fine, I'll buy everything around you and then just build a fence.
Which,
and then
like...
you'll starve. You son of a bitch.
You're landlocked, you asshole. Hey, guess what? This fence holds water. Gulp, 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 gulp. What's funny is, like, I wonder, like sometimes you see that, you're like, good on you. But, like, I saw this, there's a picture of this house, and this mall had to cut around it. And it was like a 3-bedroom, 1-bath house, like, small.
Okay.
And apparently this mall offered the person that owned it, like, millions of dollars, like, way above, like, what it actually cost, because they just wanted to tear it down and build the mall.
Right.
And whoever lived there was like, no.
Yeah.
Which, like, you're like, oh, that's honorable. But you know when that person dies, if they have kids, what their kids are going to do? Sell it.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, that's fine. But see, Shawn, but that's why, in order to avoid that scenario, that's why we came up, well, not we, but that's why big business lobbied for eminent domain.
That's only for like public stuff, right? Like a mall can't just do eminent domain on a house.
I'm not. Yes, you're right about the public stuff, but I think eminent domain can be claimed in some instances. I'm not sure what those instances are.
But yeah, it's kind of a side thing because it's basically like, oh yeah, it's kind of cool that you're keeping like, you know, your house and stuff, but there's also a side of like, you know, like if somebody came out here right now and said, hey, I want to give you $10 million for the house you just bought, even if I live here for 20 years, like, hey, I want to give you $10 million for it, Richard, I'm selling it.
I mean, I don't know, like I mean, I can't really think of a scenario where if somebody offered me a stupid amount of money that I wouldn't be like, oh, yeah, go ahead. But I can't begrudge someone for being like, no, fuck off.
No,
like,
I don't begrudge them.
I can't begrudge someone for turning down a stupid amount of money just because, you know, they want their house.
Yeah. I don't know if it's I feel like sometimes we put a little bit too much of like it's honorable. I think it's just more of a personal choice.
I mean, I don't think it's I don't see it as a moral decision.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
But at the same time, if you don't want to do it, then you don't want to do it. Like whatever your reason is.
I agree with that. I think like you said, like I think people put a moral stance on it.
Yeah.
It's like, no, it's somebody who just doesn't want to sell.
Well, that's because they watched all the movies in the 80s about like the big rich guy that's going to come in and fucking tear down your fucking house.
Yeah.
And then they go to the big dance and they go to the battle of the bands and then they win a big check and that's what they use to, you know,
pay the house off. Yeah. That's a good point. And it's like, but what happens if we sell this house, Dad? We're going to buy a bigger house on the beach. No, but this is where I grew up. You're 5. Yeah. You're going to grow up on a beach.
Yeah, we'll rip that board out that has that has the little hash marks on it, and we'll take it with us. It's fine.
It'll be cool, Junior. Don't worry about it. I hate you, Dad. Wait, are those bikinis? So as the project neared completion in 1876, there was one nagging detail, Richard. Old Nick Young was reluctant to sell a space on the northeast corner of the block. Yeah. His cottage was dwarfed by the mansions going up, but he had come to enjoy the neighborhood.
That's right. We're standing up to the bourgeois, Shawn.
Yeah.
We're saying fuck you and your knob.
Which is funny because I've always heard like you don't want to have the biggest house in the neighborhood.
Why?
Because your house isn't going to be as valued as much. Like, think if you're in a neighborhood.
I thought it was because if you have the biggest house on the hill, then Joe Pesci shows up on Christmas and tries to rob it.
Yeah, there is that. But no, if you think about like if you have like a $500,000 home in an area where the homes are like $100,000. Like, if you can afford a $500,000 home, would you want to live there or somewhere else?
Yeah, dude. There are houses in the town where I live. Now, bear in mind, Mike, the town that I live in, not that big, but there is legit. I have seen it in on like real estate sites. There is at least one house that they're wanting that they have the asking price as $1 million, like over $1 million, like $1.1 million. That seems insane to me.
There's a neighborhood that was across from where I used to live, and you drive through there, and these homes are like that because where I'm from, there's more like doctors and lawyers, like it's a bigger, so there's more of those type of jobs. And like I came home one day and I was just kind of down. I was like, man, like I work hard. I've got a good job, but there's no way I could afford something like that. Yeah. And my mother-in-law gave me, I think, the best bit of advice. And she's like, you know what? That home isn't for the guy who's working. That's for the guy's family. He's not enjoying that home at all because he's working 16 hours a day as a doctor or something like that. Now, there are people there who are probably, trust fund kids, but I'm not sure the percentage.
But yeah, it seems insane to me that anybody would pay $1 million for a house within like 90 miles of where I live.
Yeah, that area is kind of weird for that. And it's one of those things too, like you have to wonder, Because I wouldn't want that big of a home. I'd rather, like, if I'm going to spend $1 million, I'd want like $1 million worth of land with like a home the size I have.
If I'm paying $1 million for a house, like, it's not going to be here. It's going to be someplace else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, if I decided I want to live here, then I'm paying a third of that price and getting a nice enough, a really decent house as well.
Yeah, but if they're making that kind of money in that area, it's kind of a financial decision too. Like, you buy that. Well, I feel like there's a level too, because on the way home there is a house that, like, in the middle of nowhere that looks like kind of like one of those homes. It's got to be at least $600,000 or $700,000 home.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's in the middle of nowhere where it's like nobody's going to buy that home when you go to sell it.
Yeah.
And even at that point, like, if you're buying $1 million home. So it's kind of like the too much money spot. Like, I feel like there's a point where when you build that $1 million home, like, you're probably not going to make much money off of it, because if you have the money to buy $1 million home, what are you going to do, Richard? You're going to build $1 million home just like you wanted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I don't know if you know this, Richard, $1 million homes, they all don't look the same. They're all very different.
No, some of them have bat caves.
Yep, some do. Some have jacuzzis in the bedroom, not the bathroom.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why? That seems silly. Why would you want that?
I don't know. Will Smith was talking about that when he made his first few rap albums. He's like, it had the jacuzzi in the bedroom, not the bathroom.
That makes no sense.
I know, because it's usually carpeted, so you're gonna get water
How you
all
gonna
over the place.
you gotta wash your hair next to your bed where you sleep.
Yep,
that's crazy.
It's gonna be moisture all over the place, probably mold.
I hate it.
Yep, not a fan.
Couldn't be me.
So there are varying accounts of what happened next, Richard. Some say Crocker offered Young $6,000 for his slice of the block.
Oh, shit.
After some deliberation, Young agreed to sell the land for $12,000.
Oh, okay.
Crocker countered with $9,000. So let's say $12,000 in 1858. So that's not a lot. I mean, it is a lot, but in today's money, that would be $406,000.
Yeah, you know what? Probably still, like, in today's money, you couldn't buy that. You couldn't buy that house there.
When you're looking at property, yeah, it's probably double that. No, it's probably triple. It's probably 1.5.
Triple that.
Young declined. The other story is that Young became irascible, agreeing to a $3,000 transaction and then bumping up his price every time Crocker agreed to it. So first it was $6,000, then $9,000, and then finally $12,000. So Crocker was basically like, "Hey, I'll sell it to you for $3," or Young was like, "I'll sell it to you for $3." Crocker's like, "Okay." It's like, I'm at $6." Okay, no, I'm at $9. Okay, no, I mean $12. Okay. At the later figure, Crocker.
Okay, I don't know what to do. Just keep going up. 85.
So at 12, Crocker was said to have balked, spewing profanity, and walking away from his negotiations. So when he said 12, he's like, "Young, you stupid son of a bitch.
I'm going to put you in my pot for dinner.
I'm going to have young man stew."
It's going to simmer for 8 to 10 hours.
With one or both men causing this issue, the end result was that Young was not moving. Crocker's workers were busy razzing the entire block, creating a steamroll of activity that should have seen them swatting Young's cottage down like a cardboard box. So basically, like, they're destroying all this stuff. They should be taking down his house, but no, it's not happening.
Okay.
Crocker ordered his workers to arrange their dynamite blast so that the rock debris would pelt Young's house.
What a fucking dick.
It's like, "Hey, that rock there, blow it that way."
Dickhead.
Young's sitting there in his window like, "Oh, man, this coffee's so..." Like, maybe that Crocker guy's it. Holy shit! So, Richard, if the goal was to drive Young away, it had the opposite effect. Young doubled down,
if I was
refusing
him,
to
I'd
move.
be like, "Well, fuck you. Now it's principle."
Yeah. Hey, you know what,
like
Crocker?
A Bugs Bunny cartoon. I'd kick open the door and be like, "I hope you know this means war."
You walk out and say, "Hey, Crocker, guess what? I'm putting it in a high-class white trash pool." Yeah. Well, pools are okay. No, it's above ground, asshole. Woo!
No, it's not even that. It's not even an above ground pool. He's like, I'm just gonna dig a hole in the yard.
No, actually,
put the hose in it.
It's gonna be one of those cattle troughs, a metal cattle trough.
Yes. It's
like, no, it's classy.
Yeah, I didn't even wash it out first.
Cows drink out of it too.
Yeah.
So Young doubled down.
It's also where I bathe.
So
Who wants a jacuzzi in the yard?
Wait a second. Oh, there's the jacuzzi. So Young doubled down, refusing to move. So Crocker refused to raise his offer. So these two are having like a stalemate.
Yeah.
So although Young's obnoxious negotiation methods didn't make him blameless, it was Crocker who had the means to provide a real disruption.
Yeah, because he's being a dick. Be like, oh, I got money to be an asshole. You don't. Ah, ha, 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 ha.
So as reported, cost of $3,000, Crocker had his workers construct a wooden fence on his land that towered over 3 sides of Young's home. With its 40-foot tall panels, the enclosed acted like a window shade, blotting out the sun and cool air and immersing Young in the darkness.
Jesus Christ, man.
He's like, hey, oh, wow.
Fuck you. You know, I own the sun.
Yeah, essentially. He's like, if I knew what time of day it was, I'd scream. So while Crocker gleefully had gardeners decorating his side...
What's that you have in the yard, a sundial? Ha ha, get wrecked, idiot.
So while Crocker gleefully had gardeners decorate his side with ivy, Young saw his beautiful garden wilt. Despite the obvious interruption of Young's environment, Crocker's spite fence, as the papers came to call it, was perfectly legal.
God damn it.
Which that's always like... I guess technically they say fences build good neighbors, but in this case, I don't think it did.
Yeah, but like, here's the thing. Okay, everybody says like fences make good neighbors, but like Frost was being ironic when he wrote that line in the poem. Like,
was he?
Not. Yeah, he was being ironic. Frost was basically saying that like walls are what divide us as a people. It's not. Yeah, he meant the opposite in that poem.
Was that a common saying before he did it, or?
Where did I read it? I don't remember how long ago I read it. I just remember. I remember I had a discussion with somebody about Robert Frost and the whole like good fences make good neighbors, and yeah, he was being ironic when he wrote that.
Yeah, I think in some instances, though, like if your neighbor's an asshole, you kind of need a fence. You think like if you have some land.
Correct. There's a difference, there's a difference between healthy boundaries and
a 40-foot fence.
Yeah, there's healthy boundaries, and then there's I'm going to blot out the sun and kill all your house plants.
So without other recourse, Young threatened to install a flagpole that would fly a skull and crossbones. An act of defiance that might help blight Crocker's view. He also wanted He also wanted to place a coffin on his roof for advertising business because he was a mortuary.
Right.
But clearly just to aggravate Crocker. He had some members of the media on his side who condemned Crocker's crime and criticized the financier for using his immense wealth to bully a family of more modest means. The San Francisco Chronicle later called it a memorial of malevolence. Tourists would take the cable car and ride to Nob Hill just to gawk at the massive fence.
See, you know what should have happened is Young should have like charged. He should have like opened it up like a tourist attraction.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Hey, you want to walk around? You want to walk around my yard, and you can look at the fence, and you can do whatever you want. You can look at it. I don't know if cameras were around by then, but you could take pictures with it. I'm selling these like I saw the 40-foot fence T-shirts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Merchandise that.
Merchandise it out.
So in October 1877, the Pro-Labor Workmen's Party of California organized a protest rally near Crocker's home to condemn his hiring of Chinese immigrants. Organizers led 2,000 men through a demonstration. One man, known only as Pickett, stood up and admonished Crocker for the spite fence, telling him it would be tore down by Thanksgiving, or the WPC would do it for him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Workers of the world unite.
But when WPC leader Dennis Kearney was arrested on another site for inciting a riot, he told the press that his group had no reason to target Crocker or his fence. If Young harbored any hope that some vigilant justice would resolve the situation, it never came to pass.
That's sad.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of a thing, like, I don't know if you could pay somebody to do something. Mr.
Crockpot, tear down this wall.
He and his family threw in the towel and moved out, but they still refused to sell the land to Crocker. So they moved. They're like, fuck it.
That's what I'm talking about.
But they kept the land.
That's right. And they opened up, and that was the start of the first shade spot. We ran it out, and he turned it into a park. Be like, it's so hot, I wish I could find a shady spot to sit in. Be like, hey, tell you what.
There's one
I've got
right
a shady
here.
spot. Yep.
So Crocker may have thought that the feud would end with Young's death in 1880. So he left 3 years before his death.
Okay.
But Richard, it didn't. Young's widow, Rosina, continued to rebuff offers to sell the now vacant land, which was slowly becoming a place for empty cans and other garbage. After Crocker passed away in 1888, his heirs were just as unsuccessful in persuading Rosina to let the land go.
Oh, I love it.
It's like Hatfield-McCoy's.
Yeah, exactly.
In 1895, she tried to appeal to the city's street committee, arguing that the fence was a nuisance and rendering her property worthless. The city agreed, but their legal counsel didn't. There was no justification for having the Crocker remove the fence, which had been cut down to 25 feet after strong winds had reportedly threatened to topple it over.
They just explained why it's a nuisance.
Yeah, I feel like...
Oh, I don't think it's a nuisance. Be like, we just told you why.
Yeah, this is one of those where like the law gets written where like you can't have a fence over this height.
Well, and also, I mean, if you've got, railroad baron money, I mean, you're pretty much like setting the policy yourself.
Yeah, back then probably because like some of the barons were like former governors and stuff.
Yeah.
But Richard, in or around 1956, California would put a law on the books prohibiting the construction of fences meant for the express purpose of irritating neighbors and or obstructing their view.
We had to wait until 1956 for that to happen?
Well, I bet this was probably one of the first times this happened, or one of a very few times, because you have to think the 50s is when people started moving into suburbs.
Yeah.
So probably that's where it kind of like stemmed from, like, oh, well, people are now moving closer together.
So what happened? What happened to the land?
Well, most states now cap height of fences at 6 feet for similar reasons. But when Rosina died in 1902, the rivalry appeared to die with her. Her 4 daughters finally gave in to Crocker's descendants in 1904, selling the land, said to be worth $80,000, but they sold it for an undisclosed sum. So $80,000.
It better have been like more. 400,000. That's what it should have been.
So in 1905, $80,000 would be equivalent to $2.5 million today. Okay. So a significant amount more than what was originally tried to get sold for. But again, it could have been more, could have been less, but I'm guessing it was probably about that. The Young Crocker feud would ultimately prove pointless. In 1906, an earthquake and related fires swept through San Francisco, gutting the Crocker mansion and neighboring buildings. So a year after they bought it.
Even God was like, look here, Captain Crockpot.
I don't know if it had been God, because the kids would be like, man, the sins of our father, come on.
I don't know. We shook the whole house, and now there's fucking onion soup mix everywhere.
So rather rebuild, the family decided to donate the block to charity. And in a strange twist, the place where Crocker had once built a monument to spite and malice became a home for compassion and warmth. In donating the site, the Crockers opened an opportunity to erect Grace Cathedral, a place of worship. Yeah, he's trying to get back. He's trying to get back on God's good side, because he's like, look, I know you devastated my house with an earthquake. Does this make it better? We're square now, right? We're square. That could have been. That'd been interesting to talk to him.
Cookie, I got you cookie.
If like when that happened, that was kind of a moment of like spiritualness. But yeah, Richard, that's the tale of the Crocker and Young 40-foot tall fence.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the takeaway is. I'm trying to think of what the takeaway is. I mean, good fences make bad neighbors, and bad fences make rivalries, right?
I think so.
Also, you shouldn't be allowed to have enough money where you are that obnoxious to people that you live next to.
Yeah, it sounds like at least in terms of laws, they fixed that so that you can't blot out the sun from somebody. But Richard, do you have any Richard's closing thoughts?
Well, you'll never look at a crock pot the same.
Yeah.
It's now associated with bitterness and pettiness and railroad baron.
Yep. So now when you're eating that bland chicken casserole, you pop in there. That's what you're going to think of. Wait until we talk about Mr. and Mrs. Air Fryer next week.
They dug a 40-foot trench around their neighbor's house. No, I think the lesson is that some people will not be intimidated. Yeah. And sometimes the little guy can squeak one out. There you go. That's what I got. That's what I'm choosing to take away from this whole debacle.
Yeah, I like it. Well, it did, like we said, the parents didn't sell it, but the kids did, and the kids came out a little bit wealthier. So
yeah, exactly.
But what do they say about land? It's all about location, location, location.
Yep.
All right. Well, let me do a little bit of housekeeping. Visit our website, we're languageofbromance.com. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at languageofbro. Email us at bros@languageofbromance.com. And we always like to thank the two that we would never build a fence around, we would never blot the sun from, and that's our patrons, Wendy and Aaron.
Unless you wanted a shady spot, and then we'd build just a little one, so that way you guys would have a place to sit.
Yeah, like a little lean-to.
Exactly.
All right. Well, is there anything else before I close her out?
No, I'm good, sir.
All right. Well, that's all the bromance time for this show. I'm Shawn.
And I'm Richard.
Remember, don't be a why. Be a why not. Except building a fence. Yeah, don't build a fence that big. Don't build a fence that big. Don't be that guy. You want to build the fence where you can lean on it and talk to your neighbor. Don't be a crock pot.